me tell you about my first professional fight. So this time frame was very different. 2001, 2000 even. And when I say the time frame was different, the landscape was, it's not what you guys would know. By example, the UFC had 6 shows a year back then. I don't know where Pride was at. Pride was underway and going, but they would have 3 shows one year and then 5 shows in a really busy year. Strikeforce wasn't created. WEC wasn't created. Bellator wasn't even a word. I mean, it was just a different time. So to try to find some opportunity, I had just got out of college. So now you get your parents breathing down you. Hey, you got this education, you did this, and taking you off the car insurance, right? I mean, so you got to go get a job. So it was just really hard. It was really hard to find fights back then. And I get on a show, and it's called Hitman. Hitman Productions was putting it on. And Tito Ortiz was the owner. Now, I don't know how much of that was true. I don't know how involved Tito was, or if he was kind of a face for it back then, and he was a huge face for the entire sport at that time. So they aligned with Tito and Tito's show. This is what's said. So I go out to Sabobo Casino in California, and there's a whole bunch of fights on the card. I want to say there was like 16 fights. So I'm going to fight Mayhem Miller. And Mayhem had some fights. He'd even done a tournament. And I remember seeing that tournament. They're like, this is the footage I have on Mayhem. He fights 2 guys in one night. So, tough guy. I mean, right, if you're going and not only fighting 2 guys in one night, but you're winning the tournament and beating these, okay, this is going to be a hard fight. And this is my debut. But the way it worked back then, I mean, you had to take these opportunities because they were so rare. So, 16 fights. Dana was in the audience. Dana used to go to a whole bunch of MMA shows and scout. He'd go out there and recruit. So, all right, I get in the ring. I'm fighting Mayhem, and something happened on a takedown. I had a double leg, and I took Mayhem down. Well, the cage broke. The cage just absolutely gives way. And, I mean, it was like Mayhem disappeared. My mother was in the audience, and she said from her vantage point, you could no longer see Mayhem. His body is down in this. So they stop us, and they send us to our corner, and they come in, and they're trying to fix the cage. And I'm a little disoriented. I mean, not for nothing, but to know where you are when the lights are on and all these different things. Add into the fact it's my first professional fight. Add into the fact I got a tough, hard opponent. I'm tired. My point to you is, to this point in time right now, 20 years later, I don't know where we went through the cage. I don't know where that spot was. I don't know where we were when this takedown. I don't know any of these things. But I'm over in my corner. And Dan Henderson, Randy Couture cornering me. And the promoter, Paul Herrera, is in the ring and he's trying to figure this out. Well, they never figured it out. They didn't have the tools. They didn't have whatever supplies they need to fix the cage. So Paul walks out of the ring, and as he's walking, he walks past us and he yells, "We couldn't fix it. Stay out of that area." And what they did is they just pulled the tarp nice and tight. So you've got this hole. When the tarp gets pulled tight, it's now level. So he literally says that to me, stay out of this area, stay out of that area. Well, we have a round and a half left to fight. I should mention there were 16 fights on the card. We were the 9th fight. So there's going to be 7 more fights after this. He's got to go in the back and tell everybody, hey, there's a hole in the ring, fight in different areas. And as weird as this was, the show must go on. That's a real expression. And by the way, back in this time before you had commissions and you had other things like that, I mean, this wasn't all that weird. It just wasn't. And I've always wondered until this day, and we did stay out of it. Somehow we kind of fought over in this corner and we just stayed out of that area completely. We didn't know where it was. I didn't know where it was. I'm sure Mayhem didn't know where it was. So we just stayed over here. We just avoided this entire half of the cage. And everything went well. And the next 5 or 6 fights went off as well. Nobody said anything.